yourself to know, stretch your limits. Be a little uncomfortable. Ask, tell me more, tell me more. Okay, so we're all in agreement that criticism is a potentially good thing, right? Maybe. If you go back to the communication guidelines, numbers 9 and numbers 10, embrace criticism. It might be something that is very valuable. Do not explain yourself. Do not justify yourself. Do not in any other way oppose what is coming to you. Number 10 gives you some selected responses for being able to do that. And I would work with them and see what you think. Now, if somebody criticizes you and you do these responses and their criticism is of no value to you, I would still thank them, because maybe tomorrow, when you think about it, the gold nugget will be there. You just missed it in your defensiveness today. Or maybe it's never there. Thank them. Maybe they'll come up with another gold nugget. At least you have said, I give you permission. In fact, I value the things that you say to me that are different from what I believe is true about myself. What kind of a relationship is that? Bravo. That's a resilient relationship upon which any conflict is likely to be able to be played out. Okay, you kind of at a fork in the road if you're responding non-defensively. A, B, C, D are responses kind of like maybe so, maybe I am boring. Those kinds of responses, you might have a point there. Even the sometimes very provoking response to criticism, like, oh, that's very non-defensive. Like, you know, you're a total jerk, Brian. I've learned that even though those are purely non-defensive responses, they irritate people. So what I would do is use ones that don't irritate people, because you want to make this a learning experience if possible. The last two, the questioning, the mining of this criticism is really important. And those are the questions that allow you to find out more about what the other person is saying in their criticism. What are you asking of me? What are you trying to tell me? How would you like me to be different? I think you dress stupid. Okay, how would you like me to dress? What color tie would you like me to have? Whatever it is, park your pride aside and ask for the information. And it may be just dumb stuff that you hear, but that's okay. As I said, maybe it will have more value at some point. We have 2 minutes left, and we've got much more to cover. But maybe we can do that some other time.
Can you explain how you do this shift?
Yes. I have found it useful to understand conflict in relationships, to understand relationships as contracts. Contracts being the extent to which we, the one person, meets the most important wishes and expectations of the other person. And when one person meets my expectations that are important, and they meet mine, we have a relationship that is very, very strong and bound together forevermore by the satisfying nature of mutually meeting each other's most powerful expectations. They come in 3 domains, those wishes and expectations. Human being in general, spouse in particular, and co-parent. I encourage my conflicted couples to list those expectations. This is from Carl Sager's book, Couples and Couple Therapy, back in the says, valuable read. I would get the book and read it. List those expectations, find out which ones are important, and then on the right side of the ledger, for each expectation, there is a corresponding satisfaction or disappointment. Now, I would grant to you that some of these expectations, like perhaps fidelity, would be more important to you than I want my partner to exercise and run marathons. Important, but maybe not as compellingly so as fidelity. That'd be heavily weighted. If the fidelity expectation is not met, I think there's going to be a whole lot more conflict in this relationship than with the other one not being met. Okay. Doing that listing on this sheet will give you, especially if the person fills it out extensively, a very helpful blueprint of the present nature of the relationship in terms of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. And for every dissatisfaction that pertains to an issue of high importance to you, those are the issues that I want you to then teach people the skills that we talked about in part 2 to be able to address and resolve satisfaction. That's a real quick answer to the question. I'm concerned that you folks have families to get back to, and I am deeply grateful for you coming tonight. Thank you so much.
On behalf of everybody tonight, I'd like to thank you very much. I think the depth of your presentation, your insight, and the fact that you come from a practitioner's perspective, but you've also got a theory base, you've got humour, but you've got the courage to be insightful, and you're incredibly humble, I think, in terms of what you've shared with us. So I believe that each one of us in this room will walk out the door the richer for sitting in here and to be exposed to the learning that you've shared with us. So I'm looking forward to welcoming you back here to JCU Singapore for a longer period of time in the near future. So please join with me in thanking everyone. Folks, as always, we have an evaluation form, so if you've got a chance, if you can fill that out. We have another public lecture happening early in November where Dr. Paul Fisher is...